Have you ever noticed how some people seem to read minds? They walk into a room and instantly know who's nervous, who's confident, who's hiding something. It's like they have a superpower the rest of us don't. But here's the truth, it's not a superpower. It's a skill. And by the end of this video, you're going to start developing it too. Think about the last conversation you had. Maybe with a friend, a colleague, or even a stranger. Did you only listen to their words, or did you notice how they said those words? Did you catch the slight hesitation before they answered? The way their eyes shifted? The tension in their shoulders? Most people miss these signals completely. But once you learn to see them, you'll never look at human interaction the same way again. Before we dive in, let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like someone was lying to you, but you couldn't prove it? Or maybe you've walked into a room and immediately felt tension, even though everyone was smiling? Drop a comment below and tell me about it. Because what I'm about to share with you will help you understand exactly what's happening in those moments. The human body is a broadcasting system. Right now, as you're watching this, your body is sending out dozens of signals. The way you're sitting reveals how engaged you are. Your facial expressions show whether you're skeptical or curious. Even your breathing patterns communicate your emotional state. And all of this happens without you saying a single word. Our ancestors survived by reading these signals. They had to detect danger, identify trustworthy allies, and understand intentions without the benefit of language. That ancient programming is still inside you. Those neural pathways still exist. The problem is, modern life has made us lazy. We've become so dependent on words that we've forgotten how to listen to the body. But here's what's exciting. You can reactivate this ability. You can train yourself to see what others miss. And it starts with understanding one fundamental concept, the baseline. Imagine you're talking to someone you've just met. They're crossing their arms. What does that mean? Are they defensive? Cold? Comfortable? The truth is, you have no idea. Not yet. Because you don't know their baseline. A baseline is how someone behaves when they're relaxed and normal. Once you understand their baseline, any deviation becomes a red flag. Let me give you a real example. You're in a meeting with a colleague who normally makes strong eye contact. Suddenly, when discussing a particular project, their eyes start darting around the room. That's a deviation. Something about that topic makes them uncomfortable. Maybe they're hiding information. Maybe they're anxious. The point is, you noticed the change because you knew their baseline. This is how FBI agents, psychologists, and master negotiators operate. They're not reading minds. They're reading deviations. They're watching for the moment when normal behavior shifts into something else. They spend the first part of any interaction establishing what normal looks like for that person. They notice how they sit, how they gesture, how they make eye contact, how they speak when discussing neutral topics. Then, when the conversation shifts to something important, they watch for changes. Does the posture stiffen? Does the eye contact break? Does the voice pitch rise? These deviations are breadcrumbs leading to the truth. Now let's talk about the face. Your face has 43 muscles, and they create thousands of possible expressions. But here's what's fascinating. There are 7 universal emotions that show up on every human face, regardless of culture, language, or background. Happiness, sadness, fear, anger, surprise, disgust, and contempt. These emotions are hardwired into our biology. Dr. Paul Ekman spent decades studying facial expressions, and he discovered something remarkable. When people try to hide their emotions, their face still betrays them. These betrayals are called micro-expressions. They last less than a second, sometimes just a fraction of a second. But they reveal the truth. Picture this. You're talking to someone who just received bad news. They say, "I'm fine," and they're smiling. But for just a split second, the corners of their mouth pulled down, and their eyebrows drew together. That's a micro-expression of sadness. Their words said one thing, but their face told you the truth. Here's another example. You propose an idea in a business meeting. Your colleague says, "Sounds great," but you catch a one-sided lip raise for just a moment. That's contempt. They don't actually think it's great. They're judging your idea, even while pretending to support it. The key to catching these expressions is learning what to look for. A genuine smile involves the eyes. You'll see wrinkles at the corners, what we call crow's feet. The cheeks rise, and there's a sparkle in the eyes. A fake smile only moves the mouth. The eyes stay flat, lifeless. When someone gives you a mouth-only smile, they're performing, not feeling. Fear is written in wide eyes and a horizontally stretched mouth. The eyebrows pull together and raise up. It's an expression that makes someone look vulnerable and exposed. Anger pulls the eyebrows down and together, the eyes narrow into a glare, and the lips press tight. Sometimes the nostrils flare. The entire face becomes tense and hard. Disgust scrunches the nose and raises the upper lip. It's the face you make when you smell something rotten. And contempt, that dangerous emotion, shows up as a smirk on just one side of the mouth. It's subtle, but it's deadly in relationships and negotiations because it signals judgment and superiority. Surprise shoots the eyebrows up, widens the eyes, and opens the mouth. But here's the trick: genuine surprise is fleeting. If someone holds that expression too long, it's probably fake. They're performing surprise because they think that's what you expect to see. Sadness pulls the inner corners of the eyebrows upward and together. The lower lip might tremble. The entire face seems to soften and droop. It's an expression that makes people look smaller, more vulnerable. But faces aren't the only thing speaking. Your entire body is a communication device. The way you stand, sit, move, all of it broadcasts information. And just like with faces, most people have no idea what they're revealing. Let me ask you something. When you're confident, how do you stand? Probably tall, shoulders back, head up. You take up space. You move deliberately. When you're nervous or insecure, you make yourself smaller. Hunched shoulders, arms crossed, eyes down. This isn't conscious. It's automatic. Your body responds to your emotional state, and everyone around you can see it. Here's something most people never notice: the feet. While you might control your facial expressions and hand gestures, you almost never think about your feet. And that's exactly why they're so honest. If someone's feet are pointed toward the door during a conversation, part of them wants to leave. If their feet are pointed toward you, they're engaged. If they're shifting weight constantly or tapping their toes, they're impatient or nervous. I remember watching a negotiation once where everything seemed fine on the surface. Smiles, nodding, polite conversation. But I noticed one person's feet were pointed toward the exit the entire time. Sure enough, they backed out of the deal the next day. Their feet told me what their mouth wouldn't. Hands tell stories too. Open palms facing up signal honesty and openness. It's a vulnerable position. You're exposing your wrists, showing you have nothing to hide. Hands behind the back or in pockets suggest discomfort or hiding. When someone steeples their fingers, touching fingertips together to form a triangle, that's a power gesture. They're trying to assert dominance or control. You'll see this all the time with executives and leaders. When someone touches their neck or rubs the back of their neck, they're self-soothing. Something is making them uncertain or stressed. Watch for this in job interviews or difficult conversations. When someone scratches their head, they might be confused or searching for the right words. When someone's wrists are exposed during conversation, they're showing vulnerability and openness. Clenched fists suggest tension or suppressed frustration. Even if someone is speaking calmly, if their fists are clenched, there's anger brewing beneath the surface. Pay attention to what the hands are doing because they often reveal what the mouth is hiding. But here's where it gets really interesting. When people like each other, they mirror each other. Subconsciously. Without thinking about it. You lean in, they lean in. You cross your legs, they cross theirs. You pick up your drink, moments later they pick up theirs. This is rapport in action. It's the body's way of saying, we're connected. We're on the same wavelength. When mirroring breaks, when one person leans back while the other leans forward, that connection is breaking. There's disagreement or discomfort. Even if the words being spoken are polite and agreeable, the bodies are telling a different story. I've seen couples sitting across from each other in restaurants, bodies angled away, arms crossed, no mirroring whatsoever. They might be talking, but they're not connecting. You can actually use mirroring intentionally to build rapport. When you subtly match someone's posture, gestures, and energy level, they unconsciously feel more comfortable with you. But it has to be subtle and genuine. If it's too obvious, it feels manipulative and creepy. Personal space matters too. Different cultures have different norms, but in general, the closer someone stands, the more intimate or aggressive the interaction. In most Western cultures, people maintain about 18 to 24 inches of personal space with strangers. Standing closer indicates familiarity, affection, or dominance. Stepping back signals withdrawal or discomfort. Watch what happens when someone invades your personal space. Your body tenses. You might step back. You might cross your arms. It's an automatic protective response. Some people use this intentionally to intimidate or dominate. Others do it without realizing they're making people uncomfortable. Now let's talk about something most people completely overlook: the voice. Not the words being spoken, but how they're being spoken. Tone, pitch, pace, volume, rhythm. These create a second layer of communication that often reveals more than the actual words. Think about the last time someone said, "I'm fine," to you. Did you believe them? Probably not, if their tone was sharp or their pitch was tense. The words said fine, but the voice said, "I'm definitely not fine." This mismatch between words and tone is where truth hides. When people are stressed or lying, their pitch rises. The vocal cords tighten, and the voice becomes higher and strained. That's why nervous people sound shrill. A sudden change in pitch, especially during key moments in a conversation, signals an emotional spike. Anxiety. Fear. Deception. Lower pitches, especially when consistent and calm, are perceived as confident and trustworthy. This is why many leaders and public speakers consciously lower their voice. It projects authority and control. But if someone forces their voice deeper, it can come off as manipulative or insecure, like they're trying too hard. The pace of speech reveals things too. People who speak rapidly might be excited, nervous, or trying to rush past a topic they don't want to discuss. I've noticed that when people are lying, they often speed up when talking about the lie, trying to get past it quickly. People who speak unusually slowly might be choosing their words carefully, which could mean they're being cautious or deliberately hiding information. Volume tells you about emotion and personality. People naturally raise their voice when emotional, angry, defensive, enthusiastic. A sudden drop in volume can indicate shame, sadness, or secrecy. Whispered words in a normal conversation might suggest something the speaker wants to keep hidden. People who consistently speak louder than necessary might be trying to assert dominance or mask insecurity. Those who speak too softly might be afraid of confrontation or lack confidence. Listen for pauses. A well-placed pause shows confidence and control. It gives weight to the words that follow. Great speakers use pauses deliberately. But a pause that comes right after a question, especially a simple question, that's hesitation. That's the brain scrambling to construct an answer. When someone repeats your question before answering, they're buying time. Did I take the money? No, I didn't take the money. That repetition is a stalling tactic. And pay attention to filler words. Like, I mean. Everyone uses these in normal speech. But a sudden increase in fillers signals nervousness or deception. The brain is struggling to multitask. It's trying to invent a story, suppress the truth, and monitor your reaction all at the same time. The cognitive load becomes too much, and verbal fluency breaks down. Here's something subtle but powerful. Throat clearing. When someone is anxious or under pressure, their vocal cords tighten and their throat dries out. That's why people clear their throat before lying or during stressful moments. It's not a cold. It's physiological tension. Voice cracking is the same thing. Stress affects the voice in ways people can't fully control. Now, I know what you're thinking. This is a lot of information. How do you put it all together? The answer is clusters. You never interpret a single gesture in isolation. You look for patterns, groups of behaviors that all point in the same direction. Let me show you what I mean. Imagine someone with crossed arms. Are they defensive? Maybe. But what if they're also smiling, leaning in, and making strong eye contact? Probably not defensive. The crossed arms might just be comfortable. But if those same crossed arms come with leaning away, avoiding eye contact, and feet pointed toward the exit, now you have a defensive cluster. The message is clear. Here are the most common clusters you need to know. Openness looks like uncrossed arms and legs, leaning forward, relaxed shoulders, head tilted slightly to the side showing interest, open palms, and consistent eye contact. The person is receptive and interested. Their entire body says, "I'm here. I'm listening. I'm open to this." Defensiveness shows up as crossed limbs, leaning back or angling the body away, minimal or broken eye contact, tight lips, tense facial muscles, and shoulders slightly raised. The person feels unsafe, criticized, or emotionally distant. They're either closing off emotionally or protecting themselves from perceived threat. Dominance appears as standing tall with feet shoulder-width apart, hands on hips or behind the back, chin slightly lifted, slow deliberate movements, steady eye contact without blinking, and invading personal space. This shows confidence and control, sometimes aggression. It's common in leaders and managers, or individuals asserting status in social hierarchies. Nervousness reveals itself through fidgeting with hands, hair, or objects, frequent self-touching of the neck, face, or mouth, sudden changes in breathing, avoidance of eye contact or unnatural overcompensation with too much eye contact, inconsistent gestures with speech, and swallowing or clearing the throat. These behaviors suggest inner conflict, anxiety, or dishonesty. Though remember, nervousness can stem from social discomfort or fear, not just lying. Attraction displays as mirroring posture and speech, feet and torso pointed directly at the person, dilated pupils, frequent smiling or laughing, hair primping or adjusting clothes, and light touches on the arm, hand, or back. These signs indicate warmth, romantic interest, or emotional connection. The body naturally aligns with those we're drawn to. Boredom or disinterest shows up as glancing around the room, tapping fingers or feet, looking at phone or watch, slouched posture, leaning away from the speaker, and a blank or tired facial expression. This signals disengagement. The person is physically present but mentally elsewhere. Their body is already leaving the interaction. When you start looking for these clusters instead of individual gestures, your accuracy skyrockets. You stop making false assumptions based on one signal, and you start seeing the complete picture. It's like the difference between hearing one instrument versus hearing the entire orchestra. But here's what separates good observers from masters. Masters understand context. They know that crossed arms in a cold room don't mean defensiveness. They know that tapping feet in a long meeting might just be boredom. They consider the environment, the situation, the relationships, the stakes. Let me give you a powerful example. You're observing someone at a job interview. They seem nervous, fidgeting, avoiding eye contact, speaking quickly. Does that mean they're lying or incompetent? Not necessarily. They're in a high-pressure situation being judged by strangers. Their nervousness is situational, not personal. But take that same person and put them in a casual conversation with friends. If they're still showing those same nervous behaviors when discussing a specific topic, now you have something worth noting. This is called situational awareness. Before you can read a person, you need to read the room. Where is the power located? Who is dominant and who is submissive? Who is being watched and who is trying to blend in? These dynamics shape everything. The physical environment shapes behavior too. A crowded, Noisy space leads to more closed-off body language, arms crossed, minimal eye contact, shorter speech patterns. Not because people are unfriendly, but because they're overstimulated. A person seated at the head of a table appears more authoritative, not necessarily because of their confidence, but because the position itself conveys status. Understanding context prevents misinterpretation. Someone checking their phone repeatedly might not be disinterested. They might be waiting for an urgent call about a sick family member. Someone pacing nervously before a presentation isn't necessarily lying or insecure. They might just have anxiety about public speaking. Without context, you'll misread these behaviors constantly. Group dynamics add another layer. People behave differently alone versus in a crowd. In groups, people conform more, suppress emotions, or perform for approval. In private, they're often more honest and relaxed. Notice who leads conversations, who agrees silently, who interrupts, and who stays quiet. Silence can be louder than words in group settings. Watch who mirrors whom. Who physically turns toward whom. Who leans in when someone else speaks. These patterns tell you who respects or follows whom. If someone speaks but no one makes eye contact or leans in, they have low social influence. If others mimic their posture or respond immediately, they hold authority or admiration within the group. Here's another layer. Emotional intelligence. Reading people isn't just about observing actions and decoding signals. It's about feeling what they feel. This is empathy in action. Not sympathy, not pity, but the ability to step into someone's emotional world. When you walk into a room, can you feel the emotional temperature? Is there tension? Excitement? Boredom? Conflict? You don't need anyone to speak. You can sense it in the air, in the energy, in how people are positioned and moving. This emotional radar is something you can develop. It starts with becoming aware of your own emotional state first. If you're angry, tired, or distracted, your perception of others will be distorted. Your emotional lens colors everything you see. That's why emotionally intelligent observers regulate themselves before reading others. They create internal calm so they can accurately sense external emotions. Listen for emotional subtext. Someone says, "I'm fine," but their voice cracks and their eyes avoid yours. What they're really saying is, "I'm not fine, but I don't want to talk about it." Or maybe, "I'm not fine, but I don't think you care." The emotionally intelligent listener hears what wasn't said. Another key to emotional intelligence is non-reactivity. When someone shows anger or defensiveness, low EQ people escalate. They raise their voice, defend themselves, or shut down. High EQ individuals lean in. They slow down. They ask, "What's really going on?" This emotional presence disarms tension and creates trust. Emotionally intelligent people also recognize emotional transitions. Someone enters a room full of joy and exits with heavy silence. Something happened. High EQ notices the shift and gently investigates. "You seemed excited earlier. Everything still okay?" That single observation can open a door most people walk past. Now let me share something that might surprise you. Sometimes the most valuable information comes not from what you observe, but from what you feel in your gut. This is intuition. And before you dismiss it as woo-woo nonsense, understand this. Intuition isn't magic. It's pattern recognition happening so fast that it feels like instinct. Think about a poker player who folds before the final card, not because of the math, but because something in their opponent's face or breathing changed. Or a therapist who senses their client isn't telling the whole truth, not because of the words, but because the energy shifted. This is expert intuition, built from thousands of hours of exposure and experience. Your body picks up on things your conscious mind hasn't processed yet. That's why your stomach might tighten when meeting someone, even though they're saying all the right things. Your subconscious has detected something off. Maybe their smile doesn't reach their eyes. Maybe their tone feels rehearsed. Maybe their body language doesn't match their words. The human stomach actually has a complex network of neurons, often called the second brain. When something feels wrong, when your stomach tightens, your breath shortens, your skin tingles, don't ignore it. Your body is reacting to something your conscious mind hasn't caught yet. Don't ignore these gut feelings. They're not random. They're your brain processing microsignals faster than you can articulate them. But here's the key. Intuition needs to be paired with observation and reflection. After an interaction, ask yourself, what did I feel? When did that feeling start? What triggered it? Was I right? The more you reflect, the more you calibrate your inner compass. Over time, you'll learn to distinguish between intuition and bias. Bias comes from fear, trauma, or assumptions. It says, this person reminds me of someone who hurt me, so they must be bad. Intuition comes from presence and truth. It says, something about this situation doesn't add up, and I should pay attention. Now, let's talk about something critical. Deception. How do you spot a lie? This is what everyone wants to know. And the answer is more nuanced than you might think. Contrary to popular belief, liars aren't always nervous and fidgety. Experienced liars often overcompensate. They maintain steady eye contact, speak calmly, and limit their movements to avoid suspicion. Some people think maintaining eye contact proves honesty, but skilled liars know this, so they stare at you intensely. It's actually unnatural and can be a red flag. This is why baseline behavior is essential. You need to know how someone acts when telling the truth before you can detect their lies. What's their normal level of eye contact? How do they usually gesture? What's their typical speech pattern? Without this baseline, you're just guessing. The first sign of deception is incongruence. A disconnect between verbal and nonverbal communication. Someone says, I'm confident about this, while their body shrinks, their eyes dart, and their hands tremble. These mismatches are called leakage. The emotional truth slipping through physical cues. Timing matters. A truthful reaction is immediate because it's rooted in memory. A deceptive answer comes with a slight delay while the mind constructs a plausible story. If someone repeats your question before answering, they're stalling for time. Did I see him yesterday? Did I see him yesterday? No, I don't think so. That repetition bought them a few seconds to think. Liars distance themselves from the lie by avoiding personal pronouns. Instead of saying, I didn't take the money, they might say, the money wasn't taken by me or that money wasn't touched. This distancing language is a subconscious attempt to remove ownership of the false statement. They're trying to separate themselves from the lie psychologically. Watch for excessive detail. Truth is simple. Lies are complicated. Liars often add unnecessary information to sound convincing, but these extra details feel rehearsed or forced. When someone gives you a long, winding explanation for a simple question, they might be hiding something. You ask, where were you? A truthful person says, at home. A liar might say, well, I was at home, and I was watching this show, and then I made dinner, specifically chicken pasta, and my cat was acting weird, and... Here's a subtle tell. When people lie, they often mirror less. Normally, when two people are in sync, they naturally mirror each other's gestures and posture. But someone hiding the truth withdraws. They break mirroring patterns, cross their arms, lean back, angle their body away. It's subtle psychological withdrawal. Their body is creating distance because they feel vulnerable and exposed. Facial expressions betray lies too. A fake smile lacks the subtle crinkle around the eyes. A smirk might flash before someone tells a lie, especially if they think they're getting away with something. Micro-expressions, those fleeting flashes of real emotion, often contradict the spoken words. Someone might say, I'm not upset, while a micro-expression of anger flashes across their face for a fraction of a second. But remember this. No single behavior proves deception. You need clusters. You need context. You need to compare against their baseline. A nervous person isn't necessarily lying. An introvert might avoid eye contact even when telling the truth. Cultural differences play a huge role too. In some cultures, avoiding eye contact with authority figures is a sign of respect, not deception. To effectively spot lies, you need to become an emotionally neutral observer. Set aside personal bias. Don't accuse. Just observe. Ask the same question multiple ways and watch for story inconsistencies. Listen more than you speak. Give silent space. Liars often rush to fill it. Truthful people are comfortable with silence because they're not scrambling to maintain a false story. Now let me address something important. This skill, this ability to read people, it's powerful. And with power comes responsibility. You can use this knowledge to manipulate, control, and deceive. Or you can use it to connect, understand, and build trust. The choice is yours. But I'm going to tell you why the second path is not just more ethical, it's more effective. When you use people reading to build genuine connections, something magical happens. People feel seen. Truly seen. And that's rare. Most people walk through life feeling invisible, misunderstood, unheard. When you become someone who truly sees others, who notices what they're feeling beneath what they're saying, who remembers details about them and follows up, you become magnetic. People want to be around you because in your presence, they feel safe. They feel valued. They feel understood. This isn't manipulation. This is empathy sharpened by awareness. You're not using your skills to take advantage. You're using them to tune in, to calibrate your approach, to meet people where they are. This is called calibration, and it's the other half of the equation. Reading people gives you data. Calibration is what you do with that data. If someone is sad, you don't rush them with cheerfulness. If they're excited, you don't dampen them with seriousness. You match their rhythm. You respect their emotional space. This creates instant rapport. If someone is soft-spoken and reflective, and you come in loud and fast, they'll withdraw. If someone is energetic and passionate and you're monotone and slow, they'll disengage. The key is energy mirroring, not mimicry, but alignment. You raise or lower your intensity to meet theirs. It creates comfort and trust. Calibrate your questions too. If someone is tense, don't ask direct or confrontational questions. Try gentle curiosity. What's been on your mind lately? If someone is guarded, avoid asking for personal details immediately. Build safety first. If someone is open and emotional, go deeper. What did that moment teach you? How did that really feel? Calibrate your silence. In emotionally intense moments, speaking too soon can shut someone down. A well-timed pause allows others to gather their thoughts, feel safe, and go deeper. If someone shares something vulnerable, don't rush to comment. Sit in the silence. Let them know you're fully there. Sometimes the best response is just presence. Here's what trust looks like in action. You remember a colleague mentioned anxiety about public speaking. Weeks later, you ask how their presentation went. That simple question tells them, I see you. I remember. You matter. That creates a bond deeper than any small talk ever could. Or imagine someone says they're okay, but you notice tension in their shoulders and strain in their voice. You gently say, You sure? You seem a bit off today. When you name what others are hiding with care and without pressure, you give them permission to drop the mask. You create safety for truth. But timing matters. In a crowd, people perform. In private, they reveal. Choose your moments wisely. Don't expose someone publicly. Don't call out their emotions in front of others. Create safety first. Wait for the right moment, after the meeting, during the walk, on the drive home, when walls are lower and masks slip. The ultimate goal isn't to become a human lie detector. It's to become a master connector. Someone who understands people so deeply that they don't have to explain themselves. Someone who sees the storm behind the smile, the fear behind the anger, the insecurity behind the bravado. When you reach this level, you don't just read people. You transform them. You become the mirror in which they recognize themselves. The stillness that calms their storm. The rare soul who truly listens. And in a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, the person who truly listens has immeasurable power. This is the gift of reading people. It's not about winning arguments or catching liars. It's about seeing the humanity in everyone you meet. It's about recognizing that everyone is carrying invisible burdens, fighting private battles, wearing masks to survive. And when you approach people with this awareness, with curiosity instead of judgment, with compassion instead of suspicion, everything changes. Your relationships deepen. Your influence grows. Your presence becomes healing. People trust you because you see them. Not their performance, not their mask, but them. The real person underneath all the layers. So practice this. Every day. In every interaction. Watch not just what people say, but how they say it. Notice the pauses, the gestures, the energy shifts. Trust your gut but verify with observation. See patterns, not just pieces. Read clusters, not just signals. And always consider context. And most importantly, ask yourself daily. Did I make anyone feel truly seen today? Did I notice something others missed? Did I use my awareness to understand, not control? Did I build connection or just collect information? Because here's the truth. The greatest readers of people aren't the ones who can spot every lie or decode every gesture. They're the ones who make others feel seen, understood, and held. They're the ones whose presence changes the energy in a room. They're the ones people seek out when life gets hard because they know they'll be met with understanding, not judgment. That's the person you can become. Not by memorizing techniques, but by developing genuine curiosity about the human experience. By training yourself to slow down, observe carefully, and feel deeply. By practicing empathy daily until it becomes second nature. The world needs more people like this. People who truly see each other. People who listen not just to respond, but to understand. People who use their awareness to connect, not divide. People who recognize that beneath all our differences, we're all human, all vulnerable, all seeking connection and understanding. You have this capability inside you right now. It's been there all along, waiting to be awakened. Your ancestors used it to survive. Now you can use it to thrive, to build deeper relationships, to navigate complex social situations, to protect yourself from manipulation, and to become a source of trust and understanding in a world that desperately needs it. So go out there and practice. Watch people. Notice things. Feel the room. Trust your intuition. Test your observations. Reflect on your accuracy. Learn from your mistakes. And remember, every person you meet is a book waiting to be read. Not to judge, not to control, but to understand and connect with. If this video opened your eyes to something new, if you're seeing human behavior differently now, let me know in the comments. Tell me about a time you read someone accurately or completely misread them. Share your experiences because we're all learning together. And if you found this valuable, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you want to dive even deeper into understanding human psychology, persuasion, influence, and connection, make sure you're subscribed because we've got so much more to explore. Hit that bell so you don't miss the next video where we'll take these concepts even further. Until then, keep watching, keep learning, and keep connecting. Because when you truly understand people, you don't just navigate the world better. You make it better. You create ripples of understanding that spread far beyond your immediate interactions. You become the person others aspire to be around. And that's a life worth living.